Okay, we're live right now on YouTube, and I will start the webinar. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm getting a little feedback. I'm going to turn off my my YouTube that I think is running. So welcome everybody from the ninth ward. Just sort of give introductions for the people that are on here tonight. My name is Kelwin Harris. I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement for the Cook County Assessor's Office. And we're currently in the process of reassessing Chicago, kind of wrapping up with Hyde Park Township. Members of the ninth ward, residents in the ninth ward do not live in the Hyde Park neighborhood. It's somewhat confusing sometimes, but you do, for property tax purposes, live in Hyde Park Township, which covers a large area, various demographics, different market conditions that the assessor is going to talk about in his presentation. Then we're going to go on to a demonstration of how to file an appeal if you feel like you've been overvalued or if some of your characteristics are wrong. But today we have from the Cook County Assessor's Office, we have the assessor himself, with Kaegi. We have Teresa Chandler, who is Community Outreach Liaison, who'll be here sort of in the background, answering questions in the chat, things like that, in the Q&A. There is a Q&A box that you'll notice. So, feel free to, type question in the Q&A. We'll definitely get to them. Hector Dominguez will be giving a presentation on how to file appeals and just sort of, also kind of a 101 on our office. What do we do as the assessor's office? So he's going to be covering that. And then from the Alderman's office, really excited to have the Alderman himself, Alderman Beale here, who in just a second is going to give some opening remarks. And then he's got a great member from his team, Evan Johnson, here as well. So I'm not going to be wordy. I'm going to pass it directly over to the Alderman Beale. Then we're going to start our presentation. So Alderman.
All righty. First of all, welcome everyone to the ninth ward webinar with our good friend, Fritz Kaegi, the assessor. We're really excited to have him here, and he's no stranger to us here in the ninth ward. But I do have to say that this is one of the first assessors that has been extremely transparent and forthcoming to the people of the county of Cook. I have reached out to him and his staff numerous times, and I can tell you without question that this is the first assessor that is really being true to the people when it comes to the assessments, and not leaning towards big business and big industry, and where the little people have to pick up the tab because these big corporations are getting these huge tax breaks, and we have to make that money up from somewhere. And over the years, the little people have been the ones making up that shortcoming as far as the numbers. And so this is the first assessor that has really came in and tried to tackle that particular aspect of the assessor's office. So I'm extremely grateful to have him here today to talk about the assessments, to talk about how we can appeal these assessments, because we do make errors, and sometimes assessments happen that shouldn't happen because it is a big county, and that's why you have the appeal process, so we can get it fixed and get those taxes where they're supposed to be. And so I'm really excited about being here today. I'm really excited about, having the assessor here. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our great assessor, Assessor Kaegi.
Thank you, Alderman Beale, for that wonderful introduction. And I really appreciate working with you, first of all, because your organization is so lively. Every time I've been down there, I've always been impressed at how many people are engaged in all the services that you provide. And it's a delight to be here with you tonight. I know everyone can be somewhere else right now. We're overcoming a lot, all to be right here. But we've been we're overcoming a lot. We wanted to make sure we were able to provide some information to you. And Alderman Beale really covered it, that there's a lot that we're doing in the big picture that makes a difference for you. But there's also, we're going to give you some really good information tonight on how to navigate this system yourself, to advocate for yourself, that you're making sure that you get all the exemptions you deserve, and that your assessments mean that you only pay your fair share. So this is a really great opportunity to speak to you. I really appreciate the Alderman for all his great efforts. He's been a really great partner, and it's a delight to be here with you because our work, we think, is going to be making a meaningful difference in the 9th Ward. You know, more money stays in the ward if homeowners are paying a smaller share of the burden, as we expect them to be, and that money can then be spent on kept in your pockets and been spent on local businesses, like I know the Alderman has been involved with helping to get opened up. So it all works together here. So we're delighted to be with you. Why don't we start on my part of the presentation? I'm just going to be spending a couple minutes showing you how the overall system works, because this will give you a little bit better understanding of the system. You know, when I came into this office, one of the things that surprised me most was how even some of the biggest real estate investors and people who are steeped in making tax policy, even they don't understand many aspects of our property tax system. So how is the average person supposed to do that? We worked really hard on doing events like this to break it down for you so you can understand what you're doing and evaluate our work. So that's the first part of our presentation that we'll talk about, how this system works, how what's going on in your part of the city fits in with a larger picture. And then I'm going to hand it over to Hector, who's going to tell you how to advocate for yourself in the system, how to appeal if your assessment's incorrect, and also to make sure you're getting all the exemptions you deserve, and to get something called a certificate of error, which gets you a refund on exemptions you should have had but you missed. So let's go right into this. So tonight we're talking about Hyde Park Township. What is Hyde Park Township? I know a lot of you are asking because in the 9th Ward, you have a lot of different neighborhoods, but not the Hyde Park neighborhood. So why are we talking about Hyde Park Township? Hyde Park Township is a part of Chicago that is south of Pershing and east of State, all the way to Indiana and all the way to the southern border of the city. It covers so many different neighborhoods, ones in the 9th Ward, like Pullman, but many other neighborhoods too. So what we're going to be talking about is we're giving you information on all the different neighborhoods that are within Hyde Park Township, but information that will be useful for you. The key thing to know is that what do we do at the assessor's office? Our job is to estimate the value of buildings, big and small. And we do this every 3 years. And this year we're doing it in Chicago, and we're just wrapping up Chicago now. Your part of Chicago is the last part of Chicago that we have to do. We do this every 3 years. And the key thing to know is that all of our assessments are interconnected. Alderman Beale mentioned that how we assess those big buildings downtown makes a very big difference for you. It's not enough to know that your assessment is accurately done. You need to make sure that we, as a assessment system, are also assessing the big buildings, because if they're under-assessed, if they're assessed too low, you make up the difference. So it's really important that we be assessing everyone properly. So that's why we're talking about this, what's going on in other neighborhoods and other parts of the city too. The last thing I want to leave you with, so useful piece of information, is a change in your assessment does not involve a similar change in your property taxes. It is quite possible that your assessment could go up, but your property taxes could go down. Now, how does that happen? The key thing is that we're going to be talking about the base tonight. What is the overall assessed value base of the whole city of Chicago? That is kind of the baseline for what happens in the rest of the city. The city's assessed value is up about 40% this year. Most neighborhoods in Hyde Park Township are up less than that, certainly most homes. That is probably going to be good news for people. That means their share of the burden's falling, and their bill may likely fall in the fall. We'll tell you more about this. Here you can see what's happened with prices for homes overall in Hyde Park Township. Again, this is just an average. You can see the prices have been going up for several years. Last year, the average home sold for $150,000 in Hyde Park Township. Again, this is across many different neighborhoods. And you can see that green area is sort of the middle third. So these are homes that range in value between $95,000 and $140,000. That's about the range that we estimate that homes in the neighborhood are for the middle third of homes. So these are homes that are generally on the lower end of the price spectrum, but prices have been going up because all of you, as you know, you live in neighborhoods that have a lot of great assets and people want to live there. So that's what we see has been happening. And our job is to estimate the value of each home. And what you want to know is, did we estimate the value of your home correctly? And how are we estimating the value of other people's homes? So we can go to the next slide. What I want to show you here is how a homeowner's share of the burden is changing in Hyde Park Township. So before we reassessed Hyde Park Township, in this part of the city, homeowners had about 64% of the assessed value in this part of the city. That has fallen in our reassessment this year to 58%. That's because bigger commercial properties are rising more. And so commercial and non-residential properties are rising from 36 to 42% of the burden. That means that in general, homeowners' share of the burden is falling, and that is going to be good news in tax bill time next year. Now, this picture will change a little bit because we have appeals at our office. There are appeals at another Cook County body of government called the Board of Review that you can also appeal to. That will reduce the increase in the base this year from 40% to maybe something lower than that. But still, anyone whose assessment is up less than what the base is, which is up about 40%, is probably going to be having good news in their tax bill next year. You're in line for a much lower change in your bill than you might see in your assessment. So that's the thing that I wanted to pass along to you. This is a trend that we're seeing across the city. Homeowners' share of the burden across the city of Chicago is falling about 10 percentage points this year. And that's because we've made sure that those big buildings downtown are being valued more appropriately in line with the market, just like homeowners' values are. That's the biggest change that we're seeing. That's the biggest change that we've seen the last 2 years when we reassess the suburbs. Okay, we can go to the next slide. We have a lot of information on what's going on in your neighborhood. In your reassessment notice, which Hector will show you, he will walk you through the different parts of your notice. You can go and see what happened in your specific neighborhood on our website. You can do that by going to cookcountyassessor.com and then clicking through the data section and then the valuation report section. And you can see what happened in your neighborhood. What happened to housing prices in your neighborhood? What's the range of prices that people paid? Here across the township, you can see in this first line, there are about 48,000 single-family properties. There are about 1,500 single-family properties that sold last year. Their price range was 100 to 190,000. And you can see what we're estimating that middle third of prices to be, from 95,000 to 140,000 in this neighborhood. You can also see in the second line for 2 to 6 flats, there are about 15,800 of those. There's some beautiful ones in Pullman. There are about 680 sold in 2020. You can see the price range paid for them. We're estimating they're worth 110 to 190,000 for that middle third of properties. And then down at the bottom, you can see condos. There are about 13,700. Not very many in the 9th Ward. You see more along the lake. There are about 585 of them sold this year. And you can see the price range there paid that we're estimating they're worth 120 to 180,000. But you can go and see what happened in your specific neighborhood of Hyde Park Township. For example, if you live in Pullman, and see what price ranges were paid by going to our website and putting in that neighborhood code. Okay, we can go to the next slide. I just want to leave you with a reminder that we are about 232 people valuing 1.9 million parcels. So these are a lot of properties to value, and you know more about your home than we do. We're taking the characteristics that we think we know in terms of your square footage, year of construction, what your home is made out of, and trying to estimate the value of your home by the sales of similar homes in your neighborhood. But we're not going to each house and looking at each house on a house-by-house basis. So that sometimes can lead our values to be off track. And that is what Hector's going to tell you about. That's why you'd want to appeal. If our estimate of value was higher than what you think you could sell your home for, we want to make sure that we're getting that corrected and we're walking humbly. So Hector's about to give you information on how you can appeal if our number was off the mark. And he's also going to tell you how you can take some value off of the top of your home's assessed value by getting something called an exemption. and making sure you get all the exemptions that you're entitled to. And if you don't, you can also make sure that you get something called a certificate of error, which is a refund for property taxes that you overpaid because you missed out on getting some exemptions. So without any further ado, I want to hand it off to Hector, who's going to give you the part about how you can navigate and advocate for yourself in this property tax system. Hector?
Hey, let me just remind people really quickly about the Q&A box. That's how we're going to be orchestrating questions and answers tonight. So if you guys have questions out there, we've got about 30 participants that are watching us. If you do have questions, I'm sure there are a bunch. I just type them into the Q&A. And then Hector, the assessor, and the alderman will be answering them afterwards, but feel free to type them in the Q&A. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Hector.
No. Thank you guys so much. You literally could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate it. What we want to do today is just talk about what our office does and different things you can do to help kind of ease the pain that you might be feeling today. So first of all, just reiterating what the assessor said, we have the job, the responsibility to put a value to almost 2 million different properties, right? We do this by doing a mass appraisal system. And again, I'm just reiterating what the assessor already shared, but just in case you just came in or you're just catching this now, a mass appraisal system, we don't go around giving each individual house a value. It doesn't work that way. But what I want to stress is I want to talk about how we can lower our tax bills, right? So let us get there. So firstly, the triennial reassessment cycle. Long story short, this just means that every 3 years, properties get reassessed. It would be impossible for us with our 200 employees to reassess the entire county at one time. So we break it up. This year is your time. Last year was my township, and then next year we'll be doing the northern part of the county. When you are appealing, when it's your time to appeal, when you're being reassessed, you will get a reassessment notice. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. Actually, I'll just show you now. A reassessment notice, it's on the right-hand side. It's white, black, and gray. This is not a tax bill. This is not a tax bill. This is not a tax bill. This just lets you know what we believe in our office your property is worth. If we are close to what you believe you can sell your property for, then you have nothing to do. You just hang out. Now, if we're way off and you're saying there's no way we could possibly sell this property for this amount, then you definitely want to stick around, because that's what we're going to be talking about, filing an appeal. Your township's deadline is January 21st. So today's the 12th. So you have a little less than 10 days to do this. I want to encourage everyone here tonight, if you are going to try to appeal, please do so as soon as possible. You had 30 days. Now you have about 9. Please don't wait till the last moment to do this and then get caught up with time or life or responsibilities, and then you cannot appeal. Your deadline is the 21st. On the right-hand side, you have what's called a tax bill. This is issued by the Cook County Treasurer's Office. You get 2 of these a year. You get a blue one when it's cold outside, and you get a yellow one when it's warm outside. The yellow one is the only one that will have any deductions from an appeal or any deductions from an exemption. We're going to talk about that in a second. So why should you be appealing? Or what are some of the reasons why you may want to appeal? There are a lot of them, but I'm going to cover the 3 most, the ones that are used the most, right? The 3 most common. So the first one is lack of uniformity. All this means is that Teresa, Evan, and myself all live on the same block, house built by the same person, same size, same color, same construction, same everything. But for whatever reason, my value is greater than theirs, which means my value is not the same as theirs. Why is my value not uniform to other properties that are similar to mine? That is lack of uniformity. Most taxpayers choose lack of uniformity. Another common reason is overvaluation. Simply put, there's no way that my property is worth this much. If my property was worth this much, here go the keys, I would sell it to you right now, right? Most taxpayers choose this option as well. The last common reason why folks are appealing is incorrect property description or property description error. This just means there's a factual error, not an opinionated error. Here's an example. A factual error is our office says you have a building with 6 apartments or less, but you really have a bungalow, right? Our office says that you have a property that has 2,000 square feet, but you really have 1,200 square feet, right? There is a factual error. Filing an appeal is completely free. Please hear me, please hear me. You guys are probably receiving letters from attorneys, from law firms, from, everybody saying that they can lower your value. And if you choose to go with them, you're gonna have to pay them X amount of dollars. There is no special code. There is no special treatment. There is no insider knowledge that they have that you will not have by the end of this presentation. It is my job to make sure that you can file this appeal confidently on your own. Here's all you have to do. You have to have a valid email address. That's it. And the owner of the property. It is free to file with our office. I'm literally going to walk you through it right now. You have 30 days to file your appeal. You guys only have 9 days left. When you are filing your appeal, you can start it, you can edit it, you can modify it, you can save it, you can add attachments as well, like pictures, appraisals, sales analysis, whatever you want. But the moment you press submit, your appeal is done. So please, that's why I'm asking you guys to take your time when you do this so we don't make silly mistakes, we don't fumble this, and then we're left frustrated at the end. So to file your appeal is super easy. Just go to cookcountyassessor.com, click the appeals tab and click file online appeal. If you have a residential property, then you want to scroll all the way to the bottom where it says CCAO, that's Cook County Assessor's Office Appeals, 2021 Real Estate Assessed Valuation Appeals Residential with comparable grid. Now, you do not need to provide our office with comparable properties. Our office is going to do that for you. However, I understand that you may just want the peace of mind of submitting that information. So this is what you want to do. If you have a condo, then you want to just click on the second option. It says condo/co-op. If you are one of the taxpayers who wants to file an appeal with comparable properties, this is how you do it. I'm going to leave this on the screen for a second. You guys can screenshot it, or if you're watching this on replay, you can press pause. But you would want to go to cookcountyassessor.com/what are comparable properties and then use the dash marks in between. This is a very user-friendly tool to find comparables, but again, that is not something you have to do. Our office is going to do that for you. Now, when you are filing your appeal, this is all you have to do. Click the tab, answer the question. It's very simple. What I want to draw attention to are these 2 tabs that are circled in red. The first one is additional pins. This is only for taxpayers that have a prorated property. What does that mean? That means instead of having 2 bills a year for one property, you have multiple bills, 3, 4, 5, 6 bills for one property. This means your property has more than one PIN number. If you're trying to figure out if that's you or not, it's probably not. If you have a prorated property, you would know. Very simple. The next area I want to draw attention to is the attachments. This is where you would submit comparable properties if you have them, pictures if you have them, appraisals if you have it, sales analysis if you have it, a narrative if you have it. Whatever you want to submit on your behalf, this is where you would do it. You can start your appeal, you can save your appeal, you can edit your appeal, but once you click submit, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. You cannot go back. So please just take your time. Your deadline is January 21st. I'm gonna say that one more time. Your deadline is January 21st. Another way, so that's one way for you to try to have an effect on your tax bill that will lower it. Another way is our exemption program. Here, you'll see a list of exemptions that will lower the total tax bill for you guys. Homeowner exemption, super simple. As long as you owned and occupied that property January 1 of the taxable year, then you get that exemption. Senior citizen, you had to be born in 1965 or before. The year coming up, so the bill that you'll be paying this year, so the 2021 tax bill that's payable in 2022, that's for anyone who was born in 1956 or before. So those numbers are going to change. Our applications are going to start becoming available in around March, April-ish. If you received exemptions last year, they will be auto-renewed going forward. So don't freak out. But we just want to, give everyone the options. Senior freeze, must have been born in 1955 or before, cannot make more than $65,000 as a total household income, and you must have owned and occupied the property January 1, 2019 and January 1, 2020. There's also a link with this information as well. We're going to throw that bad boy in the Q&A when we get to that portion. Persons with disability exemption, our office has zero authority to let you know if you're disabled or not. So we give you an application, a form, you take that to your doctor fills it out on your behalf. As long as you meet the requirements after you submit it to us, then you will get that discount on your taxes. Next is returning veteran. This is an exemption only for those veterans who are returning from active duty. It's for the year they return and for 1 year later. So it's like a 2-year exemption. The next exemption is my favorite, the veteran with disabilities exemption. This is for any veteran that has a service-connected disability rating of 30 to 100%. 30 to 49%, you get X removed off of your tax bill. 50 to 69%, you get X removed off of your tax bill. 70 to 100%, you don't pay property taxes at all as long as your property is not worth more than $800,000. 800,000 is some change, but we don't keep it simple. The long-term exemption, this is for anyone who owned and occupied the property for 10 consecutive years. So we're talking January 1, 2010, all the way to January 1, 2020. You cannot make more than $100,000 as a total household income, and your equalized assessed value, not your market value, not your tax bill, not your assessed value. Your equalized assessed value, which is your assessed value multiplied by the state equalizer, must have increased significantly depending on where you live. Only about 2% of the county actually qualify for this exemption, and these applications were already sent out last year in April. So if you did not receive this exemption or the application, sorry, you probably don't qualify. However, I would love to sit up here and say that we always get it right. That is not the case. So if you think you do, I'm going to show you how to let us know that you think you qualify. And then lastly is the home improvement exemption. And this is just for anyone who's doing improvements on the property up to $75,000. Anything up to $75,000 is covered. You are not taxed on that for 4 years. Anything over that 75, you are responsible for. Another way for you to check this information is using the Cook County Property Info website, the Cook County portal website. You can go to cookcountypropertyinfo.com. Here, you can see the tax bill history. You can see if there's any refunds due. You can see if there's any delinquent bills or fees, any exemptions, any appeals that were filed, any deed change, document changes, any liens on the property, and all of the characteristics of the property can be found here. Now, what happens if you forgot to file your exemption, or you sent it online and it never made it, or you put it in the mail and it never made it? We have something called the Certificate of Error Program. This allows us as an office to go back and recoup any discount that you should have received for up to 3 years plus the current year. So what does that mean? That means we can go back to 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So up to 4 years of savings, guys. When Teresa and I are not doing these lives, this is literally what we're doing all day. This is my second favorite part of my job, is getting back people thousands of dollars. Thousands with an S, guys. It's not a trick. It's not a scam. It's not a stimmy scam. You know what I mean? Like, this is all you gotta do is let us know, hey, do I qualify for any refunds? Am I missing any of my exemptions? There's an easy way to do this. All you have to do is contact our office. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. But this, we already talked about. This is a tax bill, but I want to focus you guys under the tax calculator portion, specifically this red area. This is where you would find a list of your exemptions. Your homeowner exemption would be listed here if you received it. Your senior freeze, disabled person, disabled veteran, returning veteran, all of those would be listed here. The only one that would not be listed here is the long-time exemption. The long-time exemption is usually listed under important messages. Now, you want to contact our office directly. It's super simple. There's multiple ways. You can contact us directly. You can actually call our office and a human being will answer the phone after you put in your PIN number, obviously. 312-443-7550. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to our website, cookcountyassessor.com. General information, click that tab, then click the send us an email. You can do that as well. Or you can contact us on social media. You can send us a DM or you can inbox us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to go to my favorite part of the show. This is not a show. Favorite part of the presentation where we are going to answer these questions. Now, I did see that we had, where did it go? We had some in the chat. So let me see if I can pull up the chat. Where's the chat? Where's the beef? Okay, no, so the chat is being taken care of. We do have a commercial question in there, but we can have them contact us via email for that. But the Q&A is right here. So how are we going to do this, guys?
Hey guys,
Let me help you
here.
out, Hector. I can jump in. Okay. Assessor, were you saying something?
Well, hey, I almost feel sheepish in saying something because we have the all-star team of our outreach team. We have Kelvin, Hector, and Teresa here who are all amazing. So they're going to provide a better answer than I can, but I will be here too if anyone wants to direct a question my way. And I'll try not to embarrass myself because you guys are so good. But I'm going to be right here. I'm in the back of my car right now, so I don't have my video on. But I'm here and listening.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, I'll just grab a few from the Q&A and we can all kind of tackle them. The first one was from Christine. Why is the assessor's office asking for the property owner to appeal with their own estimate of the value of their residence? New this year, is this new? Why do we ask for, I guess, the opinion of the property owner? I know we do that on our paper form. And I can't remember off the top of my head the online form, but go ahead, Hector.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding this question correctly, they're asking why, and is it my responsibility to let the assessor's office know what I think my home is worth? That's how I'm understanding it. So first, we want to provide a checks and balances, right? When this administration came in, their motto, their slogan, their catchphrase has always been ethical, transparent, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing a good job. We want to make sure we're doing the right job. Anybody in a position of authority that doesn't like to be checked or doesn't give the opportunity for someone to say, hey, you might have it wrong, shouldn't be in office, right? So this is what we're doing. We're saying, hey guys, we're pretty sure we got it right. But in the event that we did not, we made a mistake, there's a human error, we want to give a way for you to let us know. And I think this is an amazing way to do it. I think it's a fair way to do it. And who better to know?
We always say that, property owners know their homes better than we do, right?
Yeah.
So the appeal process is like, we're asking you, what do you think we got wrong? Where do you think the market should be? That's not the only opinion, obviously, we're going to take. We're going to use our analysis and our comparables.
For sure.
Our process, but it's opportunity for you to give your opinion and to influence.
And also to that as well, if your house is appraised at a higher value than the ones that's in your area, that's one of the reasons, as Hector stated, that you may want to file an appeal. But it gives you information about what's going on in your community, and that's why we send out the assessment letters as well, to show you your assessed value that's in your area of your home and what's happening, the trend in your home during that year.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Teresa. Appraisals are really strong evidence, and sometimes people do submit to us independent appraisals that they had done. So that's another way that you can express what you think the value is of your home and have actual appraisal to back it up. So
and then this is Fritz here. I just wanted to add that we really are trying to make it easy for you to do this yourself, to advocate for yourself, so that you don't have to bring in a lawyer. that you can appeal these things yourself. It's so easy. We've created an online appeal system that can take just a couple minutes. You can do it on your phone. We do all of this so that you keep your own money. We want you to keep your own money and make sure that we're doing the best job that we can for you.
Yeah. Okay, next question. As we look for comparable properties, what date or date range were the 2021 assessment values processed? So this is a good question. Like, so we look at properties, does the time period of the sale of a comparable, the time period of the market of value of that comparable, how is that taken into effect or taken into consideration in the model? You want to jump in there, Hector?
Sorry, my bad. So I've been doing this for a long time. And what I always hear is, how did my value go from this to this in 1 year? Well, that's where the misconception is. It's not from this to this in 1 year. It's from the last 3 years. So basically the longevity of your triennial, right? So that's where the number comes from. Now, your question is, when you're looking at comparables, what dates should you be looking at? So if you're I can't speak for nobody else's system, right? If you're using an independent system, I can't help you. But if you're using our system, what we've just talked about on our website, that's already going to have the data and the date ranges that you are going to need. So you don't have to go and look for properties that have been sold in 2020, 2019, 2018. It doesn't work like that. That information, that data is already collected in the comparable grid. So once you put in your information and you're looking for comparable properties, all of that's going to be filled out there for you, and it'll be the correct ones to grab from, if that makes sense.
And just to build a little bit on what Hector said, we estimate the value as of January 1st, 2021. So it's from basically, we took the snapshot in time as of last year. This is what we're saying we think the home was worth in January 1st of 2021. And our model is looking at sales that happened in the previous 7 years. The previous 3 years were the most important, but the model is trained on many different years of sales. And so you can use comparables from any period. The more recent the sale, we think, we put greater weighting on that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. Next question is pretty administrative. Can this presentation?
This question's for you.
The Alderman's website, or somehow made available to other Ninth Ward residents? Maybe I'll pass this one to Evan or the Alderman. I can definitely get you this presentation, and you guys can distribute it, the best way that you see fit.
Yeah, sure. You can definitely pass it along to us, and we'll put it up on the website. The more information we can get out to the residents, the better.
Excellent. Okay, so that was from CJ. You got it, CJ. Next question: do the estimated market values take into account actual sale prices? And also actual sales. I mean, if this person probably heard about our modeling and our computer models and the mass appraisal system, but how does the actual sales kind of filter in or feed the model? Do you want to talk about that, Fritz?
Yes. Yes. So let me say, so it's a great question, because in so Hector was talking about the last time we reassessed your home was back in 2018. Now 3 years later we're reassessing it. How do we do that? The thing is, over the last 3 years, maybe 15% of the homes in your neighborhood sold, give or take. 10 or 15% of the homes would have sold, and then the other 85 to 90% of the homes did not sell. So what if a home didn't sell? How are we estimating its value? Basically, we use those sales that happened in the previous 3 years, those 15%, give or take, to estimate the value of the others. So we look at the dollars per square foot, the dollars per bedroom for the type of construction that was paid in those previous years to estimate it. And then we think the best way you can measure if if our estimate of value is right or not is to look at the actual market value that we're estimating for your house. So in the assessment notice that we sent to you, in part of that notice is what we think the value of your house is. And if we estimated a value that you think is beyond what you think you could get for it, that is, how we're trying to be accountable. And that's a great basis for an appeal. If we estimated your home was worth $200,000 and you're like, I just tried to sell this house for $120,000 for the past year and I didn't get a seller, that didn't get an offer. That's the kind of information where, we make sure that we walk humbly and we change our assessment if you've given us information to show that, our assessment is off base, which can happen. But it's a great question. But yes, the way you evaluate our assessments is supposed to be an estimate of the market value of the house. And that's what you should look at to see if we got this right or if we're off track.
Okay, thanks, Assessor. Next question is from S. Grant. How do we explain an over assessment when the home 3 times larger than theirs next to them sold for half of the new assessed value, but it's not the same classification? This is why we talk about appeals. If you feel like you've been overassessed, we got something wrong. I think baseline, we always say in our outreach, like we should be 10% plus or minus what a property might sell for. It's almost impossible to pinpoint exactly, what a product is going to sell for at any given time. We have a standard deviation of about 10%. But if you feel like something is, 2-3 times, that's definitely, why you should appeal. And Hector is.
You definitely want to appeal.
Yeah.
And also you want to make sure that if you use our grid, and even if you don't use our grid, you can use our interactive mapping to find comparable properties. We compare apples to apples, and as Fritz stated, we compare properties, we value properties on a mass appraisal system. And so we're not comparing property classifications with different classifications. So if you have a 202, we don't compare that home to a 203. So we actually have an interactive mapping system where you can locate comparable properties in your area. We have very knowledgeable analysts that works in a residential field. I was a prior analyst, so we can look for those comparables for you as well. So you don't have to do anything but submit your appeal if you believe that you should file one, if you overvalue.
Next question. What's the general turnaround on getting an answer regarding appeals? It's a good question, and I think it can vary, right?
Yeah, so you definitely want to do, we're asking for grace, right? COVID smacked the entire planet, and this has caused us, specifically our office, to kind of learn how to rework things. But typically it was 6 to 8 weeks. It is still around that time, but just give us a little bit of grace period, that's all. One side note is, I believe from doing these a lot, I always hear, well, I'm filing my appeal, but what about the bill I just paid? This appeal has nothing to do with the bill you just paid. So it's not going to affect that at all. This is going forward. This appeal is for the 2021 tax year. It's for the 2022 tax year. Yeah, 2022 tax year. I'm still stuck in last year sometimes. The 2022 tax year, and you won't see that reflected in upcoming tax bills. So,
yeah. Actually, your results will be on your second installment, like Hector said, on your second installment tax. So.
Okay. Next question is from Nicole Alexander. Just bought at the end of 2020. Bought a new home at the end of 2020. Can I include my appraisal in the appeal? Absolutely, right?
You definitely can include your appraisal in the appeal. As Fritz stated, we look at prior years, we can take prior sales. And this gives us a greater sense of what you paid for it, for your home. And if we've made a mistake. So it's like a check and balance. So if you paid X amount of dollars for it and you have an appraisal, then we'll definitely take a look at it. Also, you can also attach it in your appeal. You have that option when you're online. You can submit comparables, you can submit pictures, you can submit a narrative, whatever it is that you want to build your appeal on, provide us more information. You know your house better than we do. Yes, definitely submit your appraisal. We'll take it.
Okay, next question is from Dorcas Jocelyn. If a co-op appeals online and fails, has an unsuccessful appeal, and has to go to the next step, is it necessary for a co-op to have a lawyer to take it to the next step of appeal? I'm assuming you mean the next step with our office, or not the next step of like board of review or something like that, or you're saying maybe you're appealing the next year. Should you use a lawyer? I mean, we always say with certainly you don't have to use a lawyer. With condos, it's always, we suggest that people go to their condo association. But co-ops are maybe a bit different. What do you guys think about co-ops?
Yeah. So you don't need an attorney to do anything. However, it may make the process a little bit easier for someone who has experience in that area, right? Now, when you're going to the Cook County Board of Review, so once you file with our office and you are declined, there is no second step with our office. The second step would be with the Cook County Board of Review. Now, you don't need an attorney for them either. However, it is a completely different process. They have different statutes that they have to follow, just like we have different statutes that we have to follow. I would encourage you, this is not legal counsel, but I would encourage you that if you have more than 4 to 5 units in your association, you may want to just contact one of these, I don't even want to say the word, one of these tax attorneys, because they'll be able to break that down for you, especially for these buildings that have 10 units, 20 units, 30 units, 50 units, 70 units, things like that.
And the reason why Hector says that is when you're appealing on behalf of a co-op, you're doing on behalf of a whole building. It's not just your piece of the building. It's more worthwhile to appeal on the basis of the whole building. So whoever is representing your co-op should be working with you as a member of the co-op to navigate the process. But the head of your co-op or the head of your contract does not need to use a property tax appeals lawyer to do that, because again, you are the experts on your building. You are the experts on the homes that you live in. So you do not have to do that. It's just many choose to do that because it's a larger group and it can make more sense.
Okay, thanks for that question, Dorcas. Great question. Next question is Zillow a good source for estimates of property values? Should we endorse Zillow on this?
That is not what we're doing.
I mean, they're a private company. I think they do. I'll let Fritz take this question, but they probably do source information from similar sources as us. We shouldn't be that far off. Again, our range should be about 10%, so we shouldn't be that far off Zillow. But Zillow specifically, Fritz, what do you think?
Well, we use the same source information. So Zillow is using the characteristics information that we have that we make available to the public, and they use sales information. So theirs is an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion. So we look at that. We are trying to use information and models that are specific to Chicago and our neighborhoods. So we try to get that right. I mean, we will if we're seeing Zillow being far off, you might want to submit that as evidence, because it's just another piece of evidence of someone else's estimate that's different than ours, just like an appraisal. So you're welcome to submit it. It's just not necessarily going to be dispositive if they're saying, the value of a building is this, and we say based on the data we have, it's different. But we'll take it into account. And again, we always try to walk humbly.
And I mean, you can certainly use companies like Zillow to do your own research. So, as you look, we do have comparable tools on our site, but just using other parties as a source to get market data can help your case and just your knowledge of the market. Next question from Nicole. After the appeal of the property, how does the property get reassessed? Like, what's the mechanism for taking another look at a property? An example, does someone come out and look at the property, or is it just researched? I think it's a mix of both, right? I mean, you can request a field inspection in your appeal and request that someone come out, but it's almost like, you know, us taking a fresh look at our market data and our research as well. Who wants to add on to this one?
I think you
Or should
killed
we leave it
boss.
at that? Should we leave it at that?
Yeah,
You
But
killed it.
it's always a mix. It's always a mix. So you're asking us to take a second look at the numbers, basically.
Yeah, but the
And
way it works
that's what we do.
is that we have sent out our estimate of value to you, and then you're using the appeals process. You're bringing evidence to us. You're asking us to take a second look and say, hey, how are homes similar to this one on the block assessed? And then we take all that into account. And then at the end of the appeals process, if the appeal is successful, we use a different value that's lower. And then that's the end of the story for us for the next 3 years. However, you get to appeal again at the Cook County Board Review and at the Illinois Property Tax Appeals Board and in court. So you get multiple different chances to have redress if you don't feel like you've gotten a fair shake from us, and you can appeal again. And bring forth the different evidence. All these different venues have different rules, so make sure you look those up, and we don't control them, but our assessment will be the end of the story after you're done with your appeal this cycle, and it should stay in place for the next 3 years unless there's some other appeals body that's revising it further. But that's what you should expect, and then that will affect your tax bill in the second half of that will be paid later on this year in the fall.
But again, you can request someone to come out, and it's called a field inspection. So if you do want someone to come out to your property, you know, as a part of the appeals process, you can request that. They do not come inside the home. They cannot come inside the home, but they can come out to your property and take a look.
I think Alderman Beale is trying to talk to us.
Okay.
He has his hand up.
No, go ahead and finish. I do have a follow-up question that I deal with quite a bit. So go ahead and finish that and I'll pose my question.
Yeah, you can submit pictures of your interior if you think anything that shows that you haven't had renovations or fixtures that might say the conditions or quality is less than average. That can help you with your appeal too.
Alderman?
All right. One of the questions, scenarios that I come across quite a bit, because I do have an older population in the Ninth Ward, is when a person passes away and the house is, given to a sibling. How long does it take for you to get the information for the assessment or the reassessment to be done based on that person may have had the senior freeze or all those exemptions they get? How long does it take for you to get around to that? As well as if a person sells a house and you buy the house from a senior and the senior has all those exemptions, and then all of a sudden they buy a house and then boom, they get the reassessments and the tax bill skyrockets. So what's the mechanism in the process for you to correct those type of scenarios?
Hector or Teresa, you want to take this and then I can come in after you?
okay. Go ahead, Hector. I'll take the second half. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So what happens is, God forbid, my grandmother passes away. And because I am my grandma's favorite grandson, and I am my grandma's favorite grandson, she left me the property. Well, what happens is, we're going to use now so no one gets confused. We're in 2022. Because my grandma owned and occupied the property January 1 of 2022, I still qualify for all those exemptions because the property was owner occupied on January 1. Now, next year, that's when those exemptions will be off because I'm a good tax-paying Christian man. And I would let the assessor's office know, hey, the senior on file no longer lives here. Here's a death certificate. Here's proof that I inherited it or she gifted it to me or I bought, whatever the case was. Here's the new information. But in the event that I am not honest, I will get caught. We have the erroneous exemption department. The channel 2, channel 5, channel 7, channel 9, channel 32, all of them will be in my house and they will put me on blast and I will have to pay back taxes, delinquent fees, interest, all of that. So the moral of the story before we transfer over to Teresa is just be honest. That's all.
Yeah, because in the, this is the era of big data. So the Illinois Department of Public Health, they give us a file every month that's updated of folks who passed away. So does the Social Security Department. And we got a new computer system, so we're cross-referenced it. So this is making sure that, that only people who are appropriately getting the exemption have the exemption. What can you do? Hector, can you tell them what to do if someone feels like, hey, there's an exemption on there that shouldn't be? What should they do?
So I can tell you that.
Go ahead, Teresa.
They can file a home exemption waiver. That's what they should do. They should definitely contact us because we're going to find out, sooner or later. We're going to definitely find out. So you can file a home exemption waiver to waive that exemption on your property. And also I want to say too, if it was a senior and they're on the senior freeze, yes, they're saving money because you're frozen at your equalized assessed value. So you're talking about the assessed value of a property. Definitely the property is going to be reassessed like any other property, Alderman Beale. So it wouldn't be like they lost something. The only thing they would be losing is the exemption savings because the property is not based because she's a senior, it's based on comparable properties and sales within that area.
Great. And I just dropped a link to that exemption waiver that Teresa was talking about into the chat. So it's a simple form. You're just letting us know that, hey, I've got exemptions on my property that I shouldn't have.
And we know it won't happen in the 9th ward, definitely.
And we take care of it. That's right.
Never in the 9th ward. Never, never.
Very honest question. Very honest question.
My mom passed away 4 years ago, and I know it's very difficult when someone passes away. You got lots of paperwork to do. So we try to give you all sorts of avenues, secure things if you have rides. So we want people to know that.
That's a good point. It's not just about being dishonest, but people have lives. They have so much going on. You talk about a death in the family. It's not the first thing you're thinking about. How do I get this exemption on? So I mean, it's honestly happens quite often. So appreciate the question. Appreciate exposing that and letting us know. And like I said, that simple form allows us to just kind of take care of that and go from there. Let's take another question from S. Grant again. Do you take into consideration that my block is a mix of multi-unit apartments, low-income housing, condos, 3 mansions, and a property that one of the mansions being vacant for 10 years? So I guess it's a question kind of about comparables. How do you do comparables when the block is just such a variety of conditions? How do you factor in neighborhood conditions into our models?
So I can take the first stab at that. We have really tried hard to be sensitive to location. We think that in the past, our models were, when we were over assessing things, sometimes we would use averages too much. And we know the South Side is so different. If you just go from the East Side to South Deering to Pullman to Chatham, these are all very, very different neighborhoods. So we want to make sure that we're taking into account those local conditions. So our models are more sensitive to location. We use proximity as a factor in our valuations. A comparable sale that's closer geographically to your home, it makes more meaningful impact on how your home's assessed. We take into account school districts in measuring if the market pays more to have a home within a certain school district. We're taking that into account. We're taking into account flood zones. We know there's more flooding on some parts of the ward. So we're trying to look at all of these things as we do this. This is again sort of a second check on that if we didn't take into account the neighborhood process, but we really look at where the geographic location carefully when we're assessing the value of your home.
Yep. Hey, so I've been reading from the Q&A box. I just realized how much fun is happening in the chat too. So just taking a peek over there. Gloria says, thank you. You are very welcome, Gloria, as well as Laurice Pullins. Kelly says, ignore Zillow estimates. So there you go. There you go.
Well, it does not surprise me if the 9th Ward has the best chat going on Yeah.
And then some of the names being cut off. Sandra asked, what is the age considered a senior for us? So we consider a senior 65. So you apply the year after you turn 65. So not the year that you become 65, but you apply for the exemption the following year. And then it'll be auto renewed forever. So, just, do confirm when you get your bill that exemption is applied, just in case, something may have accidentally got knocked off, but it will be auto renewed, so you don't have to apply again. For the senior and the senior freeze this year, just the senior exemption will continue to be auto renewed. The senior freeze just one more year because of COVID, but it is 65 for seniors. I
One
think
thing I want to say,
go ahead.
is that even if it's whoever's on the deed as well, they can receive it. If they live in that home, if they have an equitable interest into that home, they can receive that exemption. Because sometimes people, they say, they have a spouse and they are part of the home, they can receive it as well. You can receive up to 4 exemptions. Our office is really here to help you. You can have the homeowners, the senior freeze, disabled person. We want you to apply. Hector and I, we see often, many times, people in your ward, Alderman, because I get calls from your ward, they have not applied. They're wondering why their tax bills are high, but they haven't applied for their exemptions. We're trying to get the word out. And this is one of the things that we are really trying to let people know. Apply for your exemptions. As the assessor and Hector and everyone says, we can go back and give you refund money, but please apply for your exemptions.
Yep. So we got about 3 more questions in the Q&A, and then we can close out. Cheryl Smith asked, good evening. Am I understanding that an increase in my assessment does not mean the same increase in my property taxes? I would say 100% of the time I've seen it, it's not the same ratio. So if you got an increase of 30%, does not mean that your property taxes are going to go up that much. It's based on not just your taxes, but everyone else's in your area. So, if your taxes went up higher than sort of the average of, your neighbors, or lower than the average, it could actually go down. So it depends on where you stand in relationship to others in your area, in Chicago and in your township. You want to add anything to that, Fritz?
Yeah, just the one baseline we can add is that the overall assessed value in the city of Chicago is up about 40% this year.
40%. Mm-hmm.
So if your assessment is up less than that, that means that so far your share of assessed value is lower than it was before. And that means your share of the property taxes that have to be paid is probably going to be lower too. Now, there are a couple different caveats. We have appeals that we have to do at our office that will reduce the amount that the base is up in Chicago by a little bit. The board review will make further revisions, so that'll reduce that further. But if your assessment is up 10% or 20%, you could easily have a lower bill next year. We'll see how it shakes out, but that's what we want you to think about. If your bill's up over 40%, your taxes likely will go up, but they won't go up 40%, go up somewhat. But that's why a change in your assessment doesn't involve a change in your taxes. The same
Great question, because that's counterintuitive, right? If you see your taxes go up or your assessment go up 40%, people they're shocked, you're scared, you're frightened. You're like, wait a minute, what's that going to mean for my taxes? But as Fritz shared, that actually could mean that your taxes really don't change, or actually could go down. So it's pretty. That's really key in sort of understanding the property tax system and understanding our office and what that assessment notice is. As Hector showed in his presentation, the assessment notice is not the bill. So when you get the assessment notice from us and it went up, whatever percentage, and it's going to go up. Often it's a good thing. It means the value of your home is appreciating. You're getting more equity, but it does not mean necessarily that your taxes are going to go up. And in Chicago, we've seen a reduction.
And just to draw a line of connection with what the Alderman said at the outset of the call, because we've been making sure that the bigger buildings downtown are measured more appropriately in accordance with market value, just like your homes are. That increase in value in big buildings is reducing homeowners' share of the burden in the neighborhood. That's been the work of our administration.
Okay. Excellent. Cheryl says, thank you. You're welcome. Another question, using the GS Cook Viewer, how do you determine the assessed value of the comparables? I see the total value and building value. I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but it's, you know, how do we incorporate comparables? Maybe the question. How do we use comparables in our appeals process? Might be the fundamental question there.
Well, once we figured out the best comparables to your home, we'll look at them on a dollar per square foot basis versus what your home is valued at in dollars per square feet. And that's what our analysts do when they look at your appeals file, and look at it in a couple different ways, looking at it from different perspective, using different groups. So that generally is how we do it. We're going to be comparing your home to other different groups of comparables based on a dollar per square foot basis, and then we'll make an adjustment downward so that you're in line with everyone else in that group.
Okay. So we got Hector and Teresa and me continuing to take Q&A in the chat if things do pop in there. Let's end with this one question from Gina that I see, or in the Q&A rather. They'll be in the Q&A box. We'll be in the Q&A box, but Gina put something in the chat, which is one of our most popular questions. So I'm just sort of eager for who wants to take this one.
I'll take it.
Gina's, okay, they're fighting over it. They're fighting over it like red meat.
Well,
I've been in my home for 18 years. Do I qualify for the long time exemption? I mean, this exemption must just be so
this is a
confusing
question we get all
because
the
it's so, we get it every single day. I just sort of wait for it, right? But it's a confusing exemption. It probably should be given a different name. We don't control the names and things like that. But go ahead, Teresa.
So this is a question we get all the time because most people think that they qualify. And if they lived in their house 15, 10, 11 years, but actually only 11,000 taxpayers qualify for this exemption, okay? And that's like fewer than 2% of the homeowners qualify. So what are the requirements? The first one is you own and occupied your house as of last year from 2000, we're gonna say 2012 now to 2022. That's the requirement, January the 1st. The second one is that you must have owned your house. I mean, your household income must be less than $100,000, and that's gross income. That's you, my son Hector, you, Calvin, everyone that lives in my house, the Alderman, everyone that lives in my dwelling, our income is combined, so less than $100,000. And the third one is that your equalized assessed value must have been significantly increasing, set by state legislators, okay? So those are the three requirements. Now, how do we know if you qualify? We know because your value, your equalized assessed value, didn't rise during that period of time, during that 10 years. We don't know your household income, but if we find out, we would have sent you an application. As I stated, only 11,000 actually qualify for this exemption. And so those are the applications that we sent out.
Okay, yeah, no, thanks.
Come on, Teresa.
Yeah.
Come on, Teresa.
Hey, that's my favorite question.
I'm telling you though, it comes up all the time, and I've seen really,
All the time.
Our team, particularly there's a guy named Lumi on our team who heads the taxpayer services, and he's put together really sophisticated spreadsheets for people who ask this question to sort of explain to them why they don't qualify, because based on the name of the exemption, a lot of people have been in their homes a long time. So that's the first question we get. Hey, why don't we wrap up? We're a little bit past an hour. I appreciate everyone for joining us. I'm gonna pass it to the Alderman for some closing remarks by highlighting a comment from Debbie Newman. I think is a nice segue. She says, thank you all for this presentation. Great presentation, very informative, well worth our time this evening. To quote my Alderman, it's another great day in the 9th Ward. So without further ado, thank you, Debbie, for that. And let's have the Alderman send us out with the great day.
Yeah, that was, I saw that one and I got a chuckle out of it myself, but I want to thank her for that as well, Debbie. Really appreciate it. You know, I want to thank the assessor and the team for taking the time, as well as Evan. You know, Evan got off at 5 o'clock today and she's still, you know, banging away. So I appreciate everybody, but more importantly, the residents for taking their time to get this valuable information that is so badly needed in our community. And we want to continue to bring this information to the people in the community. And you can only do that when you have a partnership, you know, that I have with the assessor. And so, you know, he doesn't hesitate to get the information. The staff doesn't hesitate when those questions come into our office, and, you know, we call the team and we get those answers. And so I appreciate everybody for taking the time today But more importantly, you know, everything that we're dealing with, I want to just encourage everybody to stay safe, stay warm, get vaccinated, get that booster, because, you know, we're dealing with a huge plague that's going on in our community. So I just want to just encourage everybody to stay safe and get vaccinated. But thank you all so much. And Assessor, you're the best. I really appreciate you, big guy.
We appreciate you too. We love the 9th Ward. We love being here with you, and we're always ready to run through a brick wall for you guys to keep delivering and providing more lovely days together with the 9th Warders. So thank you.
All right.
Okay, thanks, guys. We're going to sign off. Appreciate it. Have a great